Good afternoon, it's Ebird Online, and I'm finally here with the final part of the final episode of Before the 90 Days, Season 3, Episode 13, Against All Odds. Please accept my apologies that this is coming out so late. I will be doing the tell-alls today and tomorrow, and just wrapping up my take on the whole of the season. But I have had a crazy busy week, and I didn't want to put out a substandard or short review, so here goes. And today I'm going to be talking about Benjamin and Akinyi and Tom and Darcey. Thank you guys to everyone who's subscribed thus far, and please, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button. Join the family for regular reviews. So first up, I'm going to be talking about Benjamin and Akinyi. So Benjamin and Akinyi are packing at Benjamin's Airbnb, and Akinyi finally asks, "Do you want me to help you with anything?" as he's packing his cases and carrying them down towards the car. "Akinyi, here's what Ben wanted you to help him with. Kenyan customs and the customs of your family. He needed help with how to deal with your brother and your father. He also needed help with the bride price ceremony and what exactly was going to happen. And he also wanted help with the difference between the customs for a funeral and for a wedding. Although having said that, for Benjamin, it could be one in the same. And finally, he needed your help with the bride price negotiation and how to actually negotiate a fair and reasonable deal. They're the things he wanted help with, but you ask him, do you want me to help you carry heavy cases down the stairs? Benjamin's actually got that, Akinyi. It's all the other things he wanted help with. So once they get into the taxi on the way to the airport, Benjamin tells Akinyi that he's told his family that he's actually technically married. And I'm here to tell you, Ben, you are actually technically not married, not even in Kenyan law, if my Kenyan subscribers are to be believed. You're technically married, like Rebecca's technically divorced. Technically not. No papers were signed, no one was there to ordain the ceremony, and no actual bride price was negotiated because the price is still open. So as far as I'm concerned, other than your derisory 60 bulls, there's been nothing actually negotiated or agreed. All Ben seems to have negotiated for himself is a life of ongoing payment and more than likely ongoing misery. Maybe in Kenyan law, having a couple of cakes and singing cut the cake is more than enough to be married. If that's the case, then Ebird was married every single year from 1 to 16. Maybe I've been married 16 times. And then Ben tells Akinyi that some of his family were surprised and some of them were a little upset, and they didn't really understand what had happened and why they'd rushed things along. He then says the visa will take a few months to go through, and he realises he's going to be without Akinyi for that time. Hopefully that will be time for sense to set in and for him to realise that she's perhaps not the wife stroke stepmom that he needs for his son and for himself. But also in the interests of fairness, I have to say, is Ben the husband that Akinyi needs? I think she needs somebody with far deeper pockets than Benjamin actually has. And when they arrive at the airport, Akinyi tells Ben that she doesn't want him to go and she starts crying. And Ben says he has to go through security. They both say I love yous, and he says he doesn't want to say goodbye, but he has to. They hug each other and Ben starts crying, and I have to say, Ben was struggling to hold back his tears, whilst Akinyi was covering her face and crying like a 7-year-old. And it came across a little to me as if she might be putting it on a bit, and I'm really not quite sure what she actually feels for Ben. And low-key, I've actually got a feeling that she really wants to get away from Fidel and her dad. I think she's very heavily influenced by them, and I think that she feels she'll be free when she gets to America. And I think it's escape from her life in Nairobi that she actually wants, rather than just her love for Ben and wanting to be married to Ben. Akinyi says it's hard to say goodbye, and she covers her face again as she leaves the airport. But I have to say there are no discernible or visible tears, and I've seen online that Akinyi feels she's got a bad edit from TLC, and I'm hoping that that's true and that she is a lot more into Ben than we've seen thus far. I feel so far that we've seen two sides of Akinyi, one when she's talking to producers and she seems very combative and very disappointed in Ben and his negotiations and his character. But then when she's talking to Ben, we see a different side of her, and she's more pleading and telling him that she loves him and she wants this to happen and she wants it to work. And somehow I don't buy it, but I'm crossing my fingers and hoping I'm wrong. So this is where we leave their story, and we'll see what they have to say at the tell-all. And last and certainly not least, we have Darcey and Tom. And we see Darcey and she's still at the airport, and she's looking for her sister Stacey, who's also flown back to the States from Albania. And as they meet up, it's quite an awkward and tense meeting. Darcey tells us that Tom rang last week and he said that he loves her. And all I really have to say about that is, Tom, you're a liar. But I've been saying the same thing all season. Tom couldn't lie straight in bed. Darcey finally meets up with Stacey, and the awkwardness is clear for all to see. And Darcey admits she's feeling a little insecure about not being engaged, and that's what led to the problems that happened in Albania. But Darcey, don't put it all on yourself, because Stacey was a grade A class 1 bitch. And it's almost as if Stacey heard what I was saying, because as soon as they get into the taxi, Stacey looks at Darcey and says, "Do you have a ring?" She knows very well if Darcey had got engaged, of course she would have called her. It's her twin sister, so you know she hasn't. You're just saying it again to make Darcey really feel bad about herself for not being engaged. And Stacey cannot help but to rub it in that she's engaged and that Darcey isn't. And then Stacey asked, "Are you exclusive?" And Darcey says she is. And then Darcey goes back into Fantasyland and she tells us that she would never demand an engagement and that she's not desperate. Oh, Darcey, there's a picture of you next to the word desperate in the dictionary. And Darcey says she still thinks Tom is the one for her. He's the one to F your life up. Yep, that's definitely true. And the next time we see Darcey, she's back home and she's with the girls. She tells us when she left England, she felt loved. But now she's not so sure. She tells us Tom's not answering her calls, and she's not sure why. And we see her go to call him again, and when we see him flash up on her phone screen, we realise he's back catfishing. Somehow he's managed to pull back those angles, and he looks taut and tanned, rather than, like he usually does, looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And Darcey asks him, "What's been going on? Why haven't you been answering my calls?" And Tom tells her, "I'm busy." In fairness, things haven't been great, Darcey. Doing long distance doesn't really work. Tom, you knew she lived in New York, and you knew you lived in, well, your mum's house in Nottingham, so you knew it was always going to be long distance. And Darcey said, "I would like more communication with you." And Tom tells her, "You have to respect me more. You call me too much, you text me too much, I'm busy in business meetings." "What business is this, Tom? Is it a new business you've got? Please forward me the details so that I can unpick it and let everybody know that you're lying again." And he says, "You can't ring people at 5 a.m. Tom, you can. Phones are 24 hours. And he tells her, "I've got so much going on in terms of work, it's really difficult. New York is only 5 hours ahead of London, so I don't see the big deal, Tom." And then he deals the hammer blow to Darcey. He said, "I prefer to be single, and I prefer to be your friend. I think this is all too much for me. You're calling me too often." And he breaks up with her. He tells her, "If you meet someone else who's better for you," literally, Tom, with the exception of Jesse, any single man on earth would be better for her. And he says, "If you meet someone that's better for you, then I'd be happy for you to go." And I'm actually really glad that he's let her go. Now, Tom, just please stick to it. Darcey doesn't really accept the fact that he's finished with her, and she says, "I don't know what to say." "Well, we'll talk soon." "About what? You're finished." And she said it's not what she expected, and it's very confusing and it's quite scary. Oh, here we go again, Darcey. It's not scary to be on your own. It's what you actually need for a moment so you can pull yourself together, reassess and move forward with somebody who actually wants to be in a relationship and not just wants to clout chase and to be on TV like Tom and Jesse both did. And I can tell that Darcey's thinking, will Cinderella ever go to the ball? More than likely, Cinderella will go to another ball bag. A ball bag like Tom or Jesse. Darcey, until you sort yourself out and sort your head out and start being the strong, confident woman that we know is in you and that we know you can be, you will never have a relationship which is going to work. I do believe Tom when he says you ring him and text him absolutely loads of times. You did the same to Jesse. But guys, you can't put it all on Darcey. If you bothered answering the phone to her, she probably wouldn't have to ring so many times. And Tom, you're playing with her. 1 minute saying I love you and running back into the airport to say I can't be without you. God, this is terrible that we're going to be apart. And just a couple of weeks later, you're not even picking up the phone to her or texting her. Tom, I don't believe that you're that busy. I didn't notice your phone going off a million times while you were on this show. I don't believe that you have a viable business. I don't believe that you are massively busy. And however busy you are, if you want something to work, you will make time for even a 10-minute phone call each day to speak to someone that you allegedly love. Stop messing with Darcey's head and let Darcey begin to heal. And that's everything from Tom and Darcey. Please guys, stay tuned for the tell-all. I'm going to split it into 2 parts and we're going to discuss what everybody says, and I will also be looking at people's body language and also discussing the fight with Angela and Avery, and not forgetting Holland's own ball bag, Jesse Meester. Guys, please don't forget to click the subscribe button and also follow me on Twitter at Ebird99. Thank you to everyone that's already subscribed, and please let me know what you think with regard to Tom and Darcey and Benjamin and Akinyi, and let me know if you think Akinyi's tears were for real or if you think there were a few little crocodile tears for the camera. I think she was like a 5-year-old that puts a towel over their face or puts their hands over their face and pretends to cry because they're not allowed to have sweets at the checkout of a supermarket. Please let me know what you think in comments, and Ebird's going to busy herself recording my video for the tell-all. And I'll be looking at detail at everybody's role and also the role of the host. And I do have a few tips for the host and a few ideas for her future employment. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Thank you so much for listening. Ciao for now.